Oh my goodness. Good morning, good afternoon. Whatever it is for you, I hope you're having a fantastic day. My name is Zach Schomler. This is Strong Opinion Sports, episode 668. Welcome in. Just me today. I expect a short episode today. However, whenever I say that, I go for way longer than I think. So the truth is, I don't know. We're going to sit down. We're going to talk about Thursday Night Football. Going to answer some Patreon questions. We'll see what happens. Little life update. I have what's called a pimple in my nose, and it really hurts. And so I say life update kind of sarcastically. If you're out there, though, I'm sure you can relate. It's awful. It's bothering me. It's not fun. It's on the injury report. It's a big deal. So I don't know. I don't know why I share that. It's very late or early, depending on who you are. Let's say it's very early in the morning. Now Friday morning. After Thursday Night Football, I've been up now. It is what it is. I want to talk about Thursday Night Football. On Thursday Night Football, the Dallas Cowboys beat the New York Giants 20-15. This game, it was. Look, if you're not a Cowboys fan and not a Giants fan, this was a tough game to watch. You're trying to care. You're trying to get enthralled by this game. It was ugly. It was messy. I would say. It was an unconvincing win by the Dallas Cowboys. A win's a win. I don't want to bash a team for winning. And so, congrats on the victory, I guess. But this is not a very good Giants team, and barely beating them in an ugly way. You walk away with the Dallas Cowboys going it's not great. I'm not a huge fan of their head coach, Mike McCarthy. And I think the big takeaway really is Jerry Jones has got to give up some control of the Cowboys front office. Keeping Mike McCarthy this year felt like a weird mistake. Paying Dak Prescott the massive contract they did feels like a huge limiting factor. I don't love it. So I remain steadfast. My prediction early in the year was 6-11 for the Dallas Cowboys. Give or take a win or loss, I think I'm pretty close. I just don't think this is a great football team with a lot of tough stuff ahead of them the rest of the year. If they win this game 45-15, you're like, yeah, Dallas Cowboys are where they should be. But 20-15, and in an ugly fashion, in an unconvincing way, it's again. I don't want to hate on a team that won, but it's just like, all right, we'll see. As far as the New York Giants are concerned, man. Look, first of all, Malik Neighbors, the rookie receiver, is awesome. He looks like there's that meme. I'm sure it's going around Friday morning today of the Bugatti parked under the roof, in the parking garage or the car park, little carport of a manufactured home. And the Bugatti parked in a trailer park is exactly what Malik Neighbors is. That's a perfect analogy. That meme totally fits. He's an incredible receiver playing with a subpar quarterback. I want to credit Daniel Jones. This was one of the better games Daniel Jones has played. He was 29 for 40 passing, 281 yards. Had an interception, but it's at the very end of the game. It's a Hail Mary to try to, get to the end zone basically on the final play or two. I don't want to hold that interception against him. I thought Daniel Jones, like I said, played pretty well. He ran for a first down or two. But ultimately, what's sad about this game is this was one of Daniel Jones' better games I've seen. And on one of his better days, he's still just basically Alex Smith. Alex Smith is a perfect analogy for Daniel Jones, a limited passer that can't stretch the field vertically. There's times where you got to get more on the ball downfield. That's not happening. Daniel Jones, on his worst days, is awful. And his ceiling, the very best Daniel Jones can be, is Alex Smith. Just a middle-of-the-road, not great starter. He's paid way more than that. Frankly, his contract is ridiculous. I've been out on Daniel Jones for a long time, and this is why. His ceiling is really low, and the floor is really low as well. The bad days are really bad, and the best days still aren't that great. You're like, okay. I mean, I thought he played okay. It's weird to criticize a guy after having a good game, but that's what we're doing here. It's just discouraging. Okay. Clearly the Giants are running into a problem where their quarterback's a limiting factor for this franchise. And I don't know much more to say. It was not a great Thursday Night Football game. I know the score was technically close. It was a one-score game. It was a slog. It was the Giants kicking 5 field goals, and you're like, oh, can we finish a drive, please? I'm also not a huge fan of Brian Daboll, Brian Daboll, the head coach of the New York Giants. I don't really like how he conducts himself. I've said this before. I thought this seed got planted during Hard Knocks, while he was talking about the 40-yard dash, and then ever since then, he looks really good. He's taking good care of his body, clearly. But I just don't like the way he represents himself at the podium and the way he talks about things. I just don't. I'm not a fan, and I really don't feel great about the direction this Giants organization is going. That could change with a different quarterback, maybe. Maybe Brian Daboll ingratiates himself with a more talented quarterback. But right now, this Giants franchise is sputtering. And I don't think Daniel Jones is doing anything to warrant them doubling down and keeping him next year, and not trying to draft a quarterback or find some kind of replacement. I just think it's becoming increasingly clear in New York. Daniel Jones cannot be your long-term answer if you want to be a contender and a playoff team. On his very best day, he's a comparable quarterback to what Alex Smith was in Kansas City. That's not good enough, man. I don't mean to hate on the guy. He can run around a little bit. He can make some throws with good timing, on schedule, underneath, but that's about it. And that's a huge limiting factor for the New York Giants. All right, let's actually just shift right into answering questions from Patreon. If you want to support the show, go to patreon.com/Zach Schaumler, patreon.com/Zach Schaumler. It's $1 a month. You can donate more if you want to, please do, but $1 a month minimum gives you access to submit questions on Patreon. I look at every single write-in. I do the best to answer as many as I possibly can. The truth is, if you write into the show under I put posts on Patreon, hey, this is for episode 668. Here's the place to submit those questions. You submit them there, it's very likely, like 99% likely you're going to get your question read on the show. I really like doing it. I love this audience participation and this interaction very, very much. And the first question today is from Joe, which he kind of touches on a topic that leads me into something I wanted to talk about anyway. So we'll read the question from Joe. I've got, I think, a really interesting answer here. But it allows me to talk about something I was already planning on talking about. So let's go to Joe. Joe says, hey, HVAC Zach. Personally, I think Natty Nate works the best. It just feels right with what we know about Nathan so far. That's our other co-host on the Tuesday episodes. We'll call him Natty Nate for now, I guess. Joe's question is this. Since your life has improved drastically in the past year or so, how has your philosophy changed? What's something you believed a year ago that you look back and wished you were as wise as you are now about? How are you doing as well? Or hope you are doing as well. And I'm very bolted right now. Los Angeles Chargers losing to Pittsburgh isn't the end of the world. Justin Fields is playing lights out right now. Credit to him. So I learned a big lesson recently. And it was a huge, I'm 27, right? It was a lesson I probably should have learned a while ago. I am disappointed I didn't learn it sooner. But it was a big one for me. I learned to be gracious to people you don't like very much. And I know that sounds obvious. My favorite podcast host was screwed over pretty bad, I would say, my own words, by people he founded a company with at one point and had to leave and start his own company and kind of spin off. And he often says that the best revenge is just living well. He never talks bad about the old people he worked with. You can tell he doesn't like them, and it hurts his soul a lot. But he never comes across as bitter. He just tries to live his best life and keep his head down and do his thing. And I've seen that example for years now from him, and known like that's what you want to do, that's what you strive for. But I still didn't learn my lesson. And when I got fired as a offensive coordinator of a high school football team for frankly running my mouth about the former head coach. And look, I'm not proud of that. I believed what I said when I said it. And I can't take those words back, but I learned a lesson, from that experience. And I try to, whenever I have struggles in life or, I I screw up. I try to look really hard at myself and take a deep look at me and my actions and what I could have done better. And I look at that situation and go, yeah, there's definitely a lot I can take away from that. And rather than blame other people, I try to just look inward and analyze for myself, what could I have done differently? How could I have handled that situation better and more graciously? And I don't want to be a bitter person at all. All that being said, I did a collection today. My job, I'm an HVAC salesman. And in the process of doing sales, you get to know customers pretty well. When someone's going to write you, an $11,000, $20,000, $30,000 check, they have to trust you, and you build quite a relationship with people over the process of getting to know them, and giving them a bid and having many conversations back and forth and trying to put together the system that's best for them. I did a collection literally today with a guy who, I guess today, Thursday before Thursday Night Football, with a guy who runs a collection agency. And him and I did what's, Logan, who is like the community manager basically for Strong Opinion Sports, he would call this a Minnesota goodbye, where your meeting's clearly over, but you just talk and you talk. And it's one of those customers who he's in his 70s. I look at his life, the house he owns, the business he owns, how he conducts himself. I'm like, there's something to be learned from this guy about his approach in life. So we just talk, and he's imparting a lot of wisdom on me. And he'd said something that really stuck with me. This guy said, you want to treat people with dignity is really the takeaway he gave me. And he said that word for word. And I was like, oh, and I looked inward when he said that. I'm like, oh man, I wish I'd done that when I got fired from coaching high school football. I wish I had. Not after I got fired. I think I handled that okay. It was before I got fired, right? When I first got hired, I was fired up and talking about the past and my excitement to make changes. And I don't think I treated the former head coach with dignity when I commented about that. And it's a lesson for me. Even people you don't like, you want to treat with dignity. And that's a lesson I want to take and use moving forward for the rest of my life. All that being said, I actually want to play a clip from Cameron Hayward is a defensive lineman for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's a stud. He's a lifelong Pittsburgh Steeler. I respect him greatly. He's a leader in the locker room. He's got a podcast. He's awesome. I really love Pittsburgh a lot. He had the Steelers' young quarterback, Justin Fields, on his podcast this week. And in my opinion, Cameron Hayward, a veteran leader in the Steelers' locker room, put Justin Fields in a position that I don't love. I think he was a bit irresponsible with his podcast and line of questioning. I'm going to play the clip, but let me just tell you basically what happens is Cameron Hayward asks him questions. Hey, which coaching staff was better, Pittsburgh or Chicago? Which group of teammates was better, Ohio State, Georgia? How about which group of teammates did you like better, the Bears or the Steelers? And it's like, that's just an unwise, unfair position to put someone in. Especially a young quarterback who may not know better and maybe hasn't learned the lesson yet of treating people with dignity and being gracious in the face of difficult things. So let me play the clip, then we'll talk about it. Full transparency here. I haven't listened to this entire podcast. Nathan, the other co-host of the show, sent me a clip earlier today. I was like, oh, that's wild. And I looked at the podcast. Justin Fields talks for like an hour on this podcast. I'm taking a 30-second clip that I don't think needs more context than the 30 seconds to know that's not smart. I'll explain why. I think someday I'm going to sit down and listen to the full hour and see if there's any more interesting content to talk about from this. But for now, I want to play the 30-second clip. I think it's all the context you need just to know, hey, you probably don't want to put your quarterback in a position to say this stuff. But I'll play the clip and we'll talk about it right now.
Let's go through some quick questions here, and then we'll wrap up. Who do you like? It's our Who Do You Like More segment, right?
Okay.
It's going to be either Pittsburgh, Chicago, or Columbus, or Athens.
Okay.
All right? Coaching, Pittsburgh or Chicago?
Pittsburgh.
That was it. It's not close. Come on.
Coaching, Athens or Columbus?
Columbus.
Okay. Teammates, Columbus or Athens?
It's tough. I got to go with Columbus, though.
There you go. Pittsburgh or Chicago?
So again, as a veteran leader of an NFL team, it's your job to help the young guys around you. I don't think Cameron Hayward is doing Justin Fields a solid here. This is a bad segment of a podcast designed to, frankly, create controversy and create drama And I can't think of any other reason to do this. Why would you ever have a segment like this on a podcast other than to grab headlines? And I did what many people are going to do, which is play this clip out of context. I don't think you need to know much more than this. You're getting Justin Fields to say stuff that's not wise. Getting him to basically say, oh, the Steelers coaching staff is way better than Chicago. Now, I think that's true, by the way. I think it's very clear. The Steelers have a better coaching staff than any of the stuff Justin Fields dealt with while he was in Chicago. Mike Tomlin is awesome. I respect him. I love Pittsburgh a lot. I love their culture as a franchise. So like that's an obvious statement everyone agrees with. Yeah, obviously Pittsburgh's better coached than Chicago. But don't put a guy in a position to have to say that. And frankly, if you're Justin Fields there, I would probably say, hey man, like let's not, I don't want to go there. I love my team. I love where I'm at. I really love Pittsburgh. And I'm really excited to be there. I don't know. The problem is, even if you say that, it looks like you're dancing words. It's better not to do that segment. It's better not to go there. And then like, which group of teammates was better? It's like, how does Justin Fields benefit from answering that question? Not at all. He's just creating controversy. So I really would say Cameron Hayward put Justin Fields in a position with that line of questioning on the podcast. And that's your teammate you're supposed to look out for, and a young guy when you're a veteran. I don't like that segment at all. I think it's unwise. I think it's unhelpful. It creates controversy for no reason. It's not cool, in my opinion, to do that. Now, as far as Justin Fields goes, I don't know how you answer that any differently. He very quickly is like, well, basically, obviously, Pittsburgh's better than Chicago when it comes to the coaching staff. And like, I don't think that's an egregious, like, rude thing to say for Justin Fields, but I just want to remind people, hey, when you feel like you're wronged, I learned in my own life, I lost an opportunity I was really excited about to coach and be an offensive coordinator in high school football because of my words. Because frankly, the past was lingering with me, and I didn't treat someone with dignity when I talked about them, and I couldn't, I was bitter and upset, and I let the past affect how I talk about things now. And I'll never do that again. I've learned very much not to do that. And I think a great example of how to handle the past is actually Malik Willis, the current Green Bay Packers quarterback, who he's playing in relief of Jordan Love, who got hurt. August 26th, Malik Willis was traded from Tennessee to Green Bay, right? So less than a month ago, he was the quarterback of the Tennessee Titans. Gets traded, and basically after drafting him fairly recently, Tennessee decided, you're worthless. We're going to trade you for a 7th-round pick. And everyone said, what a great trade by Tennessee getting a 7th-round pick for this guy. Oh my gosh, you got rid of him for free. Well, in NFL Week 3, Malik Willis, who had won the week before, Week 2, as the starting quarterback of the Packers, in relief of Jordan Love, plays his former team Tennessee, and he beats them. And when given many opportunities to say something negative about Tennessee, asked, how does it feel to beat Tennessee? What do you feel about, how meaningful is this game to you? Malik Willis would never, ever say anything bad about Tennessee. It was so interesting. He was given many opportunities to come across as bitter and angry, and all he said was basically like, I appreciate the opportunity they gave me. I wish them all the best. And I said something earlier, the best revenge is living well. That is what Malik Willis is doing. He's like, I'm going to win. I'm going to do my job. I've got no ill will. He doesn't carry bitterness in his heart. That is exactly that's how I want to live my life. I look at Malik Willis and go, that's an example of how I want to do things. And I think that's how Justin Fields ideally could feel about Chicago, which is like, did that situation suck for me? Yeah, it did. Do I think I got treated very well? Probably not. But let's not be bitter. Let's just move forward, and let's just go out of our way to like give dignity to Chicago, not talk bad about them. Not that this is not an egregious statement by Justin Fields. He just basically said Pittsburgh, and then, obviously, he just very clearly agrees that Pittsburgh's got a better coaching staff. He's not wrong there. But I just hope that Justin Fields' attitude can be, hey, man, I wish him well, and I'm not going to add fuel to the fire. I'm just peacefully I'm living my life. I'm doing the best I can. I'm still trying to make it as a quarterback. I appreciate the opportunity they gave me. I was so impressed with Malik Willis's answer when talking about Tennessee after NFL Week 3, after beating his former team that kicked him to the curb. To not add fuel to the fire, to be respectful of them, to me was like, wow, that's an emotionally mature human that we can all learn from. And frankly, like you asked Joe, what I've learned in the past year. I've learned a lot. I frankly value money more than ever before. When I ran a business full-time doing strong opinion sports, I was an artist who is terrible at running a business. And I want to buy a house and have security and take care of my family and my wife. And I really want to be stable and reliable to my family. That's something that's definitely changed a lot for me. I think I've grown up a lot in the last year. But part of growing up for me was just learning to let go of the past and stop being bitter. And I really needed to get fired as an offensive coordinator to learn that lesson once and for all. You got to just be gracious, treat people with dignity. And if you do that, you're never losing if you treat people with dignity. And here, I want to read something I said to Nathan. So Nathan sent me that clip of Justin Fields talking to Cameron Hayward on the podcast. And here's what I said. I said, this is a stupid segment all around. His teammate is literally setting him up for problems. They're currently in the NFL. You don't need to have segments like this. And I heard a quote today. A customer I work with does debt collection. He said, you need to always treat people with dignity. Malik Willis did with Tennessee. I did not with the former high school I coached with. And then here's what's really important. This is the reason I'm reading this. Here's what I said to Nathan. I said, you want to be really thoughtful when you disrespect somebody. Basically, you want to save it for the 1 or 2 times in your life where it's really important so it actually carries weight. You see this in politics a lot where people demonize everyone. This person is the reincarnation of, I don't know, name any horrible, genocidal, terrible figure in political history, right? And there's a reason I'm not saying names because I don't want to get demonetized. He's the reincarnation of... And you're like, oh my gosh. And if you say everyone is this awful demon, horrible person, it loses meaning. You become the boy who cried wolf. If everyone's evil, then no one is. And if you are always bitter and angry and trashing everyone, then you just lose the meaning when you say that kind of stuff. So I learned, man, treat everyone with dignity. And therefore, if there's ever a moment I don't treat someone with dignity, it must mean they did something horrific and they really deserve it. And you just can't willy-nilly dole out disrespect all the time. It exhausts people around you. It's unhelpful. It's counterproductive to your life and your goals. And also, man, I've learned in my life now, I'm going to keep my head down. It's weird to say that doing a podcast where it's my job to talk about people, but I've got a huge meeting this morning, Friday morning, that is to kind of document what happened at a really, a bad situation at work that really was, I had a really strong disagreement with somebody. And you know what I'm going to do in this meeting? I'm going to get my head down. I'm going to be, treating him with dignity, this guy who I think wronged me. I'm not going to go out of my way. I'm just going to keep my head down, stay in my lane, and just try to do the best I can in a tough situation. I think it's really wise to just keep your head down. And, I saw a picture of someone today. Someone sitting on a plane. Their feet are on the wall in front of them. They're in the front row of the plane. This person took a picture of it that said, I think it's disrespectful to put your feet on a wall. I was taught to never do that. And it's I think it's disrespectful to take a picture of someone minding their business. And I'm now in the business of, when it comes to my personal life and business, I'm just keeping my head down, minding my business. If it doesn't affect me, I don't care. I'm not going to cause a problem about it. I'm not going to create waves. I'm just going to stay in my lane. And I think that's a really good philosophy. So Joe, you ask, how has my philosophy changed? That's it right there. Don't be bitter. Treat people with dignity, even if you don't like them. Just don't cause an issue. You can't attack everyone all the time. You can't live that way. It's not good for you. It's not a good look. And so people like Justin Fields, you leave Chicago after getting kind of wronged by them. Keep your head down and focus on yourself. Live well. That's the best revenge. And treat people with dignity. That's the best thing I can say. Unless they're a horrible, really terrible criminal, you really don't lose by treating people with some level of dignity, and they're going to work better with you. Again, the guy I talked to today is a debt collector. It's a really delicate situation where you're taking people's assets and liquidating them. The people you're working with don't like you and don't want to work with you. But if you treat them with dignity, he said, you can win them over and massage that relationship into cooperation and go from them hating you to them actually even maybe becoming your friend. So treat people with respect and dignity, even if you don't like them. And I think that's a lesson I've learned recently that can go a long way. That really is a change in my philosophy, Joe. that I think everyone can learn from. And I look at a guy like Malik Willis for wisdom and for leadership there. I'm like, that guy's awesome and someone I want to be like. David writes in. David says, "Hey, Zach, hope you've been well. I wanted your thoughts on this. I believe big quarterback signings are rarely worth it. And except for certain players, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, etc., that can truly, consistently week in and week out elevate teammates, and the massive amount of cap space that are like 95% of the time are better spent on building an amazing offensive line and defensive line. Essentially, in my opinion, an average quarterback, average running back, and average wide receivers with an amazing offensive line will almost always fare better than a team with a massive quarterback contract and a massive wide receiver running back signing, but subpar play on the offensive line or defensive line. What do you think? Do you agree or disagree? We are seeing some, quote, average quarterbacks with smaller contracts doing well early this year, while some of the highly paid quarterbacks on teams are struggling. So thanks for reading. I looked at the highest paid quarterbacks. I want to tell you some of the worst contracts I think that are out there in the NFL. So, and I'm going off of average annual value. It's not perfect. It's not salary cap hit. It's not your total guaranteed money. This is just average annual value. It's an easy way to kind of look at their contract and average it out and see what a player's worth. With average annual value, Dak Prescott's contract is worth $60 million a year. Highest paid quarterback in the NFL. Dak Prescott, the Cowboys quarterback. For context, Patrick Mahomes' average annual value is $45 million a year. So Dak on average is making $15 million a year more than the greatest quarterback I've ever seen in my entire life, Patrick Mahomes. That's wild. Here are some of the worst contracts in football. Dak Prescott, $60 million a year. Tua, I love Tua, $53.1 million a year with average annual value. I think he's okay. Part of the problem is he's probably going to retire, and you're locked into that contract, and it's going to affect your ability to pay new quarterbacks as well. So Tua's contract is pretty problematic in my opinion. Trevor Lawrence, $55 million a year for a quarterback who doesn't have a win this year, and frankly hasn't looked great. You watch an interception last week against Buffalo, and you're like, that's a receiver wide open on a deep dig. You just airmailed. That's a problem. Brian Thomas Jr. is wide open. You got to hit that. That's a high school throw. Deshaun Watson, his average annual value is $46 million a year. We live in a world where Deshaun Watson is making more on an average annual rate than Patrick Mahomes. That's insanity. That's a broken system. I think Patrick Mahomes is one of the few quarterback contracts that's worth a lot of money. That's totally worth it. Patrick Mahomes, average annual value is $45 million a year. Josh Allen is $43 million a year. Totally worth it. I'd pay them. I'd pay Lamar Jackson. These are guys that make you competitive, that solve problems, that make your team instantly effective. Doesn't matter what you put around these guys. Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, they're going to find a way to be competitive and help you win some games. I love Joe Burrow, but his expensive contract looks... Look, they're not awful. They're in games. They got 3 one-score losses, but they're 0-3 right now. I wouldn't put Joe Burrow as one of the worst contracts in football, but certainly it's expensive. So let's be very clear. By far, the best value for any contract in football right now is Brock Purdy, making his AAV, average annual value, is $934,000 a year. That's absurd. That's a quarterback drafted in the last pick of the draft on a rookie contract. Rookie contracts are kind of a cheat code, but certainly if you can pay a rookie quarterback a low amount of money, a quarterback on a rookie contract, a small amount of money to pay everyone around him and they play well and you win a lot of games, you're killing it right now. I would way rather pay, I don't know, CJ Stroud, Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, quarterbacks on rookie contracts. You know, Bo Nix is making, his AAV hit is $4.6 million a year. CJ Stroud is $9 million. Jaden Daniels, $9.4 million. Brock Purdy, we talked about it, less than $1 million a year. Justin Fields, $4.7 million. Paying a quarterback that small an amount of money, so you can pay the people around them, makes way more sense than paying a quarterback like Dak Prescott $60 million a year. So I tend to agree. Here's a more realistic contract. Derek Carr's average annual value is $37.5 million a year. Look, that's not cheap. That's pretty expensive, but it gives you way more flexibility than a contract like Dak Prescott's, where you are locked in and you have a hard time paying people around him. Baker Mayfield, $33 million a year. That's amazing. Geno Smith has got great value for his team, making $25 million a year with average annual value. The steal of the century right now is Brock Purdy, Sam Darnold at $10 million a year, Andy Dalton at $5 million a year. Here's where I'm going with this. I would way rather pay Andy Dalton $5 million a year than Dak Prescott $60 million a year. They're close enough in production and ability that you're getting way better value by paying a quarterback like Andy Dalton less money. I think Baker Mayfield's contract is genius. $33 million a year on average is a steal. That's great. It's a good quarterback who's solid, and that low amount allows you to pay other people around him. I don't know, man. These contracts, Trevor Lawrence, Tua, Dak Prescott, Deshaun Watson, they're getting out of hand. It's a problem. Dak Prescott should not ever make more money than Patrick Mahomes. That's criminal. Here are the highest paid quarterbacks in football. Dak Prescott, Joe Burrow, Jordan Love, Trevor Lawrence, Tua, Jared Goff. It's until, 1, 2, 3. So Joe Burrow's pretty dang good, right? So 2 is pretty high up there. That's okay. He's arguably worth it. But why is Patrick Mahomes the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13th highest paid quarterback in football? The 2 most successful quarterbacks in my lifetime were not the highest paid quarterbacks, Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes. Are we noticing a trend? Hey, if you pay your quarterback less money, you can build better teams around them and they can win more. And by the way, winning gets you paid more money off the field. Patrick Mahomes makes a lot of money in sponsorships and commercials. And also when you're winning, it's not a bad look to be in commercials. I'm watching Will Levis in Mayo commercials all the time. And when you're watching him have some of the worst turnovers I've ever seen in my life, and then they cut to a commercial and he's in the commercial, you're like, ooh, this is a bad look. You probably shouldn't be in commercials when you're losing and playing terrible. Makes you look unfocused. Look, it's a bad, bad look. So to me, man, yeah, we're at a breaking point with these NFL quarterback contracts where, again, Dak Prescott making, he's got a $240 million contract, average annual value of $60 million a year, $129 million guaranteed. That's a crippling contract for a 31-year-old quarterback. When, again, the market says you can pay Andy Dalton $5 million. Sam Darnold, $10 million this year. Baker Mayfield, more reasonable because it's a realistic long-term contract, $33 million a year. Geno Smith, $25 million a year. Derek Carr, $37.5. I'd rather pay Derek Carr $37.5 and build around him than pay Dak $60 million. That's where we're going. I agree with you a lot. I would much rather spend less on a quarterback. Frankly, I would rather draft a quarterback every 5 years than pay someone like Dak Prescott $60 million. Unless you've got a Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, one of those quarterbacks who just, man, they are duct tape to solve a lot of problems. Tom Brady called Lamar Jackson the eraser because when there's a mistake around him, he can make a football play and erase it. I think it's a great nickname from Tom Brady for Lamar Jackson. Unless you got a guy who can be an eraser of mistakes around him, like Lamar Jackson is, like Josh Allen is, like Patrick Mahomes is, they're not worth the insane contract. Oh, and by the way, Josh Allen is the 14th highest paid quarterback in football. Patrick Mahomes is the 13th highest paid quarterback in football. So they're not even the highest paid guys, and I think that's well worth it. Great value there. I'm rambling now, but no, I think quarterback contracts are getting out of hand and becoming a problem. Dekiru writes and says, "Hi, HVAC Zach. I am at a Thanksgiving flag football tournament. We have won in years past, but with my brother as quarterback. He is not playing this year, so now I am up. I am an average athlete, decent speed with a good agility. My arm is okay. I got really good receivers. One is short and fast, quick guy. I plan to put him in the slot. I got a tall, athletic wide receiver to put outside. It's my first time playing quarterback. What advice can you give me? I want to lead my team to victory. It's 7-on-7 with one mandatory lineman." I took 3 notes. Here's what I would do. Here's my advice to you, honestly. Take the easy completions. And maybe before this, you got some time, was it 3/4 of the way into November? The third Thursday of November is Thanksgiving. So you got a little bit of time to prepare. I would practice catching the ball and throwing it quickly. Because if there's an easy completion, immediately you want to get the ball out of your hands quickly to a receiver that's open. 5-yard hitches, stuff like that. You want, quick outs. You want to be able to get the ball there quickly, immediately practice the footwork and the mechanics of that a little bit. When you got one-on-one coverage with that tall guy outside, throw it high and let the guy run under it. In a league like, I guess if there's a safety you can work across the field, you want to throw it far enough you can run under it, but put it high and out there. And I played flag football in college. We were really good. It's where I learned to throw the moon ball, actually. I learned that after I retired from football, basically. Oh, if you throw it really high and let the guy run under it, you're in a really good shape. And in flag football with less talented defenders, that's a great move. Throw it high and far, let your receiver run under it. If you got a guy who's fast enough to do that, it's great. And then extend plays. Keep plays alive. When you're getting out of the pocket, keep your eyes downfield. Flag football is so fun because there's so many broken plays. There's so many ways to escape the pocket, whatever that looks like in flag football. Keep a play alive. Get out on the perimeter, on the edge where you can run or throw, and you're going to get a lot of yards doing that. I love flag football a lot. I should really join a league and play. It'd be incredible and really, really fun for me. Time right now is limited. I'm doing a lot in my life, but I someday I want to join a flag football league, and I think I was pretty good in college in intramural flag football, and that's my advice to you. And I hope that works. Dekiru. Lionheart writes in and says, "Hi, Zach. Here is a list of things that have happened. In 2023, the Eagles started 10-1, then completely fell apart. In 2022, the Vikings started off 10-2, then completely fell apart. In 2021, Arizona started 10-2, then completely fell apart. In 2020, the Steelers started 11-0, then completely fell apart. Every year, there is a team that starts off red hot before finally crashing down to earth. The Vikings, the Steelers, the Seahawks, Kansas City, and Buffalo are currently all undefeated. Which of these 5 do you think is most likely to continue going undefeated, but then fall apart down the stretch?" I say this with absolute respect. I think it's probably Pittsburgh. The back half of Pittsburgh's schedule is way tougher than the beginning. I think they're really good. I think they're probably a 10-11 win football team, honestly. And they play Indy, then Dallas, then Vegas, then New York, the Jets, then the Giants, then Washington. I think they start the year 8-0, probably. And maybe they got a bye week to prepare at Washington. Maybe they win that game too. But then their schedule turns in, and Washington's pretty good, by the way. We've seen Jaden Daniels play really, really well. But then it's Baltimore, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Cleveland again, at Philly, at Baltimore, Kansas City, then Cincinnati. A lot of really good teams all in a row at the end of the year for Pittsburgh. The last couple games for Pittsburgh are really, really tough. From the bye week on, it's a brutal schedule for Pittsburgh. I think they're going to win some of those games. I think they're probably a 10-11 win team, honestly. But they're going to lose a lot more games in the back half of the year than the beginning. I really believe in Pittsburgh. I think they're building something. I like Justin Fields. I think they're headed in a good direction. But just given the strength of schedule in their last eight or so games, they're going to have a harder time at the end of the year than now. And so that's a team that I don't think falling off is the right word. They're just going to come back down to earth when you realize, we're playing much significantly better teams than we are in the beginning of the year, and that's going to cost them. And they're going to look like they fell off, even though the whole time I think the signs are there that the end of the year is going to be tough for Pittsburgh. Dialing up Star Trek says, "Hi, Zach. As a Giants fan, I was wondering what you would think of them possibly signing Sam Darnold next year. I think pairing him with Brian Dable could take Sam Darnold to the next level. Also, I think it would be cool if you and Nate did a live show like Thursday Night Football. Nate calls the plays and you do the color." Yeah, maybe. I could see, first of all, let's address the live show. I think that'd be fun someday. I could not do that until next season, I think, honestly, given my job, given my schedule. Between now and next football season, I'm going to make a lot of changes. I'll be engaged by next football season. I'll probably own a house. I can really settle in. When I like my studio right now has boxes everywhere. And I'm realizing like this apartment is going to be temporary because we're going to probably be in a more permanent place. I'm not even unpacking. I like have literally like totes everywhere, and they're just going to remain packed because it's like, why unpack everything? We're just going to move it next summer. It's like, just whatever. I'm not going to really settle in here. And so given where my life is headed, I'm just going to changes like that, things I can do like that. They're down the road and we'll get there eventually. As far as Sam Darnold going to the Giants, I think it's a terrible That'd be a mistake. He already played in New York. I don't think him going back to New York is wise. Sam Darnold is playing well in Minnesota with a lot of help and good coaching around him. I'm not sure either one of those things are in New York. I'm not convinced Brian Daboll's a great coach, and I don't think they've got much help other than Malik Neighbors out there. A great receiver, sure, but that's it. I really like Sam Darnold in Miami. I think that'd be a great fit, if not staying in Minnesota. But I don't feel great about Sam Darnold anywhere other than Minnesota or Miami. I think Miami, with the receivers they've got, with the coaching staff they've got to support him and love him up, would be great. Or Minnesota would be a great fit for Sam Darnold. Other than that, I don't feel great about Sam Darnold playing in many, many places. I think him, without help and good coaching that's quarterback friendly, is a mistake. And I haven't seen quarterback friendly coaching from New York, and I haven't seen a lot of support around any quarterback they've had for a long, long time in the Giants organization. Joe says, hey, HVAC Zach. Oh, I already read that one. Elwood says, dear Zach Attack and Nathan, run the damn ball, Hawthorne. I haven't heard much about your Patreon fantasy leagues this year. How are things going for each of you? Zach, you kicked my butt last week without a quarterback in the 4th Patreon league. Therefore, Nathan is my new favorite host of Strong Opinion Sports. Just kidding. Love you both equally. Let's check in. I haven't looked at I'm not going to lie to you. I have been really sparsely. I made 4 fantasy leagues for Patreon supporters, and it's fun. I hope people are enjoying that. I have not been participating. I set my roster week, but I haven't been engaged very much. And in fact, there have been times where I haven't even adjusted my roster. I'm doing pretty well. I was 4-0 last week. I won every single game in every single league I was in last week. It's going pretty well, honestly. My 4th tier team is pretty rough. I've got Bo Nix at quarterback. Or Mac Jones. I had to start Mac Jones last week because I made the move too late in the week. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't remember who my quarterback was. It was terrible. It was Tua, and Tua's hurt and probably going to retire. I'm like, well, I can't keep Tua on my team, let alone he's taking up a roster spot and probably never coming back. So it's a weird situation. I think. Let me look at the standings of every league. In this league, I am 2-1. In the 4th tier, I'm 2-1. In the 3rd tier, I'm 2-1. In the 2nd tier, I'm 2-1. And in the 1st tier, I'm 2-1. So I'm 2-1 in all 4 of the fantasy football leagues I'm in. It's not bad for a guy who's not paying attention very much. I haven't made many trades or many moves with adjusting my team. I kind of picked a roster I like of my best players and went with it. But I made a lot of principled picks that I think. Like I got Saquon Barkley and Bijan Robinson and David Montgomery, and I drafted Brian Thomas Jr. in almost every draft. And, the Falcons defense, which hasn't paid off for me yet, but I think will eventually. Stephon Diggs, the player I drafted many, many times. Like I've got my roster my team between the 4 leagues is basically the same almost. I got many of the same players just because there's a couple of people I really believe are going to have a good year, and I doubled down on that, and so far it's worked for me. But honestly, right in later in the year, I'll do a recap of my fantasy leagues probably in January or something. Just tell you how it went and what happened and what I learned from it. But I've just been so busy with my real job and the show and doing a lot of stuff. And 2 podcasts a week is a lot. Plus, again, a real job. It's time consuming and frankly, I have to be really professional at my job. So, and it's time consuming. I get calls at like even 11 o'clock at night sometimes. So, I'm really pressed for time. And frankly, like when I talk about this time-wise, it's actually a huge blessing I got fired as an offensive coordinator. I don't know how I would have done it. I have no idea how I would have done a podcast and a full-time job and coach high school football 5 days a week, 6, really 7 even, because you do have Saturday meetings, for watching film with the players, and you got Sunday game planning meetings. So 7 days a week coaching plus a full-time job plus doing the podcast would have been completely impossible. I probably would have had a mental breakdown like a month into the football season. I would not have made it. So it was a blessing in disguise for me personally. And you live and learn, and I like where I'm at in life. Evan writes in, says, hey, HVAC Zach, I just wanted to ask what your process is for breaking down film of an opponent. Typically from the defensive side, we began by documenting every formation the offense had ran that year, and a couple of years back looking for trickery. From there, we would catalog their 5 most often used plays and their 5 longest average yardage plays from each formation. Then we would look at 3rd and longs, 3rd and shorts, and red zone plays and catalog their tendencies there as well. who would highlight the players who were high usage. I'm sure it is similar, but I'm curious what your process was. P.S. If you ever want to give hunting a try, I'd be happy to guide you. Evan, let's go hunting. I don't care. I don't know where you live, actually. But I don't care where you live. I'll come to you and we can do it. I think it'd be really fun. I've never actually hunted. I'd like to. I have shot before, but not at anything moving. And I would enjoy. I want to learn how to hunt. I want to learn how to care for my family if things ever get really bad. And learning how to hunt and provide would be really meaningful to me. So, yeah, Evan, I'll take you up on that anytime, anywhere. Name the place, I'll come to you, and we should do it. I'd love to hunt with you. That'd be really fun. Please don't kill me, though, in the woods. I appreciate that. I don't know you well enough yet to not say jokingly, please don't kill me. Like going into the woods with a stranger. And weapons. What's my strategy? Same thing you do, man. You look at formations, you look at how they react to certain formations, how they react to certain motions, what kind of coverages they run most often, what they're comfortable in. Usually people have a couple base coverages they like to run. Then you figure out how to attack those. Then what do they do on third down? What do they do on third and short? What kind of tendencies do they have in certain situations? You said it. I don't have much more to add to what you said. It's pretty straightforward. You just figure out basically what they do in every situation and figure out what your game plan is to attack those things. And the key is you got to be really, really detailed and catalog everything. And I think it takes a lot of time watching film and preparation if you do it right. And the more prep and the more work you do, being organized and detail oriented, the better off you are week to week. It takes a lot of tedious watching a film and organizing clips and organizing and documenting everything. But if you do that, you're in a really good position. And frankly, like that's a whole job in the NFL is people who watch film and just third labeling stuff and going through and cutting up film. So coaches don't have to do that part of the job. They can just go, oh, let's look at every third down play. Let's look at every fourth down play. Let's look at every whatever. And it helps them to do their job, just to catalog everything. But in the high school level, you got to do all of it. So that's the kind of stuff I think is really important. It's just being organized, having a spreadsheet with every play and documenting how they do what and being able to quickly access that information if you need is key. And I don't have much more to add to that, honestly. Kenny writes in and says, hello, Zach Schomler of the 503. Have you ever thought about opening up a post office box? I would love to send you some stuff. Thank you, Kenny. Yeah. So yes, I have thought about it. I will when I'm in a more permanent situation is my answer, right? I've bounced around the country a lot. I've moved a lot. When I buy a house, that's going to be the place I'm at for the next, forever. I'm going to buy a forever home at some point. And once I know where that's going to be, I'll pick a spot nearby and probably put a P.O. box out there so people can send me mail if they want. It'd be fun. I really would like that. And then I can open stuff on the show too, which would be really, really cool. Like you send me a care package, dude, I'll open it on the podcast. You know what? That'd be awesome. So, or share the things people send me, I guess, too. So yes, someday I will, but I'm just not in a position yet to be in a permanent location. And once I am, that will happen. Andy writes in and says, Zach, there seems to be a standout of the new head coaches. It's Mike McDonald. Him and Dan Quinn are the only ones so far that have winning records. What do you think the Seahawks' potential is with Mikey McD as their head coach moving forward? I predicted Seattle to be the last standing undefeated team. Do you think this is possible, or am I smoking the tall grass? Thanks. Well, look, Seattle hasn't really played anyone yet, in my opinion. Let's look at their schedule. Let's talk through it. Like beating up on a quarterbackless Miami Dolphins last week. So they beat on a rookie quarterback week 1 in Denver, or against Denver. They beat the Patriots in overtime week 2, and they beat Miami with Skylar Thompson and Tim Boyle at quarterback week 3. They're 3-0, but come on now. Coming up on Monday Night Football, they play in Detroit. That's a really tough one. 2 weeks from now, they play the 49ers, then the Falcons, then the Bills. They're not going to be undefeated for much longer, and their schedule gets really tough. And I like Seattle's been doing some good stuff, I guess. They're 3-0. That's very cool. Their time is coming, I think, very quickly to get brought back down to earth. I like Mike McDonald. I think they're headed in a good direction. I got no hate for Seattle. I think Ryan Grubb, their offensive coordinator, is doing awesome. But I think they're beating up on... They've beat up on 3 lower quality teams in the NFL so far this year. And beat up, when I say that, they've won 2 one-score games and then beat Miami without a quarterback. Like, it's like, let's pump the brakes a little bit on Seattle until they've beaten a good team and kind of earned the benefit of the doubt. They haven't done that yet, in my opinion, and that's my honest answer. Billy writes in, says, long one, but it's a good one. Billy says, we saw Dave Canales revive the career of Geno Smith, then Baker Mayfield. Now, are you ready for the career resurgence of Andy Dalton? Are you ready for Andy Dalton to steer the Panthers ship for 3 to 4 years, and then after the Dalton era, just in time for Dave Canales' 6-year contract to come into question? As Bryce Young is beginning to take over the reins in Carolina, another NFC South team in Atlanta will finally have Michael Penix Jr. taken over for Kirk Cousins. But all these plans and future-proofing your franchise are years and years from now. So I circle back to my first question, partially as part of you being a fan of the city of Cincinnati. Are you prepared to witness the career revival of Andy Dalton? Dave Canales has done it twice before. There's no doubt this coach is prepared to three-peat his way, to another playoff run with his third, quote, washed-up NFL veteran backup quarterback, Andy Dalton. I like this plan, actually. I think you give Andy Dalton, if he can play well the rest of the year, you give him a modest contract to solidify your franchise. I'd rather pay Andy Dalton a modest amount of money than Dak Prescott $60 million a year, for example. And he gives you time to keep... I don't think you give up on Bryce Young. I think you acknowledge his faults and where he's at, but you keep working with him, and hopefully someday, if he can sit and learn behind Andy Dalton, eventually he can maybe replace him. You just treat Bryce Young like Jordan Love, which probably is what should have happened to him from the beginning. I think Bryce Young was thrown to the Wolves and expected to play immediately, which was pretty unfair to him. He doesn't look ready at all. That's okay. I don't think you give up on the kid. You just keep him on your roster, let him learn, let him sit. I really think it's a shame that never happened with Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson, with Aaron Rodgers getting hurt 4 snaps into last year, never got to sit and learn behind Aaron Rodgers. He'd probably still be in New York if Aaron Rodgers hadn't gotten hurt last year. And Zach Wilson might still have a chance to become the Jets starting quarterback someday if he'd had a chance to sit and learn behind Aaron Rodgers. So sitting and learning behind a good quarterback is always going to benefit a young guy, in my opinion. It's going to help Michael Penix Jr. It helped Jordan Love. And I think it's going to help Drake May. So, man, I think it's okay if the plan now with Bryce Young is we're going to sit him behind Andy Dalton until he's ready. And we're going to ride on Andy Dalton because he can play, and he's a quarterback we can get on a value proposition that makes sense. So I'm all here for that. I hope that happens. I don't know if it's going to happen with Dave Canales and Andy Dalton, but we're 1 game in. It looked good in 1 week, and we'll see if that can continue. But if that's what happens in Carolina, I'm all for that plan. That makes sense to me, and I just hope they have the foresight to go with that. I think Andy Dalton is better than people realize, and I really see the value of paying a quarterback like Geno Smith, Derek Carr, Baker Mayfield, Andy Dalton less money, more like 25, 30, 35 million a year compared to a quarterback of similar ability, maybe slightly better, but Dak Prescott, paying him double that a year is crazy. And so if you can get Andy Dalton for $25, $30 million a year for 3-4 years, that's a great deal for everyone. Give him a $100 million contract for 3 years. I mean, that's amazing value. So I just think we got to rethink quarterback contract value as well. And if you overpay a bad quarterback or an average quarterback when you could pay a similarly average quarterback less money, you're not winning or doing well, in my opinion. I think the Dak Prescott contract is almost criminal, how overpaid he is and how irresponsible that amount of money is to pay Dak Prescott. Chuddyman says, let's take Mel Kiper seriously, LOL, for 1 second. How would the league even enforce a ban on, quote, 2 high safeties? Like, would there be an invisible line, like the line of scrimmage, illegal formation, defense, 5-yard penalty, repeat 3rd down? The more I think about it, the more moronic it sounds, and it doesn't even really make sense. No, I agree. Banning 2 high safeties is a insane, ridiculous idea that is never going to work. It makes no sense. I hate it. It's audacious to even suggest that. You couldn't enforce it, but also, like, do you understand how difficult it is to play defense in the NFL right now? We don't need to make it even harder for anyone. We do not at all, you need to make it more difficult for a defense to play. It's already incredibly difficult. If they want to play 2 high safeties, do it. You also can't eliminate the chess match of football. You can't tell people how to. I hate it so much, that idea. It's a total non-starter. It's ridiculous. You have to let the defense play cat and mouse with the offense and play chess and play back and forth. And I hate that idea so much. It's one of the worst things Mel Kiper's ever said his entire NFL career, and there's already a lot of bad things he said and ridiculous things he said. So I hate it. It's ridiculous and no way. Final question of the day comes from Troy. Troy says, hello, HVAC Zach. I hope all is well. In the past 3 weeks, who do you think has been the best rookie? My pick would probably be wide receiver Malik Neighbors of the Giants. But if Jaden Daniels continues to show what he did against Cincinnati, or if Brock Bowers continues to be a bigger part of the offense, it could be him too. What do you think? I think I remember you being high on Jaden Daniels during the pre-draft process as well. First of all, let me say, I think Bo Nix has gotten way better through 3 weeks, and I really like what he did week 3. But here's something I want to tell you about Jaden Daniels. I've been putting together the film of Jaden Daniels on my computer and going through it and organizing all the clips. Do whatever you want with that information. Week 2, they had the ball at halftime. They kneeled down, but with 8 possessions, and one of them was a kneel down ball before the half situation. With 7 meaningful possessions, week 2 against the Giants, Washington scored 7 times. 7 meaningful possessions, scoring all 7 of those drives. Now, 7 field goals, not touchdowns, but still, that's an incredibly efficient offense. And then, here's what's really crazy. Week 3 against Cincinnati, Washington had the ball 8 times. And 2 of those drives were kneel down situations. One at the end of halftime, or one at the end of the first half before halftime, and one at the end of the fourth quarter where it was a 1 snap drive and they kneeled it. So I don't count that drive. So 8 possessions, 2 of them were taking a knee. So 6 meaningful possessions. Here is what Washington did with those 6 possessions. Touchdown, 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 field goal, touchdown. 6 drives, 6 scores, 5 touchdowns. So week 2, 7 meaningful drives and 7 scores. Week 3, 6 meaningful drives and 6 scores. That is crazy. People are not talking enough about not only how well Jaden Daniels is playing, but how well he's being coached by Cliff Kingsbury, bringing him along. Dude, you got to give respect to Cliff Kingsbury. Say what you want about him. We saw Dave Canales, I think, struggle with a young quarterback, Bryce Young. Jaden Daniels is getting brought along really wisely and really well. They've built an offense that works for him. They're building it in a way that allows him to succeed and feel comfortable. Your job as a coach is to put your player in a position to succeed. Dave Canales didn't really do that with Bryce Young. He put Bryce Young in a situation where he was swimming and looked overwhelmed. Now, that's how he wants to run his offense, but that's not a coach who's doing great shepherding in a young quarterback. Say what you want about Cliff Kingsbury. He's done an incredible job of shepherding along a young quarterback. I just panicked. If you watched me on camera, I thought for maybe half a second, oh no, am I recording this podcast? I was like, the audio better be recording. I've now gone for how many minutes? An hour. And if I wasn't recording audio, I would have been freaked out. Guys, that is all I have today. Jaden Daniels is playing amazing. That's the takeaway here. Again, 7 drives week 2, 7 scores. 6 drives week 3, 6 scores. They're putting points on the board with drives at a clip that is incredibly successful in Washington. You'll love to see it. Guys, that's all I have. I love you. I appreciate you. I will see you next week with Nathan. Alabama, Georgia this weekend. It's going to be incredible. There's a lot of great football games this weekend. Have good food. Have good drinks. Sit down with people you love and enjoy the glorious game of football this weekend. I love you. I appreciate you. I hope you have a great day. And bam, we are done.